Well, here we are. I'm not at my desk today. I'm actually sitting here. I'm comfy. I am at my little spot here on the couch where I love to be. So let me get a little comfortable here, and then we can go ahead and get going. I know no one's here yet because I just started this, and I want to go ahead and get this shared. So hang on a second as you come in. I'm going to be sharing this in my thing. So give me a second here and we will get going. Hi, by the way. So we are live. Hey guys, be nice today. And I'm putting come join in communication. The key to a healthy relationship. And what I need from each of you, please, is to go ahead and share this as well. Okay. So we're here today, and I'm still waiting for everyone to come in, and a few people to come in before we get started. Hate to get started, and I'm here talking by myself. That's really no way to communicate, is it? Can't communicate if you're the only one communicating. So, hi, I see I got someone in here with me. Probably me, right? Okay, it's Sunday. We had daylight savings time. So, therefore, everyone's just going to be a little thrown off. And ignore my hair because I just got it cut and styled a different way. So it's called the messy look. All right. So here we go. Communication. It's the major key aspect in any type of relationship. May it be a personal relationship, a romantic relationship, a relationship that you have with a partner. Big time need, guys, because she ain't going to stay around if you don't give her a reason to. Right? Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and go over quite a few key points here. And I need to take some of this off. Really? How overwhelming that looked. Dark. So, communication. How do we describe communication? It varies in so many different ways. So what I'm going to do is I have some key things that I kind of want to go over. So let's put it like this. Relationships, they don't exist in a vacuum. They exist between two emotional human beings who bring their own past experiences, history, and expectations into it. Two different people also have different levels of skills when it comes to communication. You have to remember that. So, but to have better communication, because it is a skill, can also be learned. And you can learn that. If you really want to maintain something healthy, you can learn it. And it's real simple, and it's not hard to do. And that's what we're here today to do. We're going to learn what it's like to communicate in a healthy relationship. And Jade said, I am lagging in and out. Is it just your internet, or what is it, Jade? I'm not sure. She just sent me a private message. Who else is in the group? Is it anyone else in here? Am I lagging in and out? And I could be if somebody is watching something in their room. And that's a good possibility. Let me go ahead and I'm going to start this again. It's going to be a few minutes late. Can you tell me who's in here? Tell me if we're lagging in and out. Okay, you're breaking in and out. Joined. Okay, Dee says I'm not lagging in and out. So, Jade, that may be yours. And it could be. Good possibility that that's yours. Okay, but it was kind of like what's her face's last time, hers was lagging in and out, but yet no one else's was. So it's hard to say whose is doing what. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get this. Back to what I was doing here. I was kind of just messing with my screen, so I don't know if it did anything. So back to our communication. Okay, so the most popular myth about communication in relationships is that since you talk to your partner, you're automatically communicating. While talking to your partner is indeed a form of communication, it's primarily about everyday things, just everyday topics. So, how are the kids? How was work? How's your mother? You're not really communicating about anything important. It's just the basic stuff. So, what we're primarily ready to talk about today is more open and rewarding manners, things that you can deal with your significant other. Okay? So, communication either makes or breaks most relationships. Most relationships break up because of lack of communication. Somebody feels ignored. Okay? You can improve your relationship today, right now, this second, by putting into practice some of these tips that I'm going to give you to improve your relationship status, your relationship techniques, everything. And is anyone else commenting? I'm going to try to make sure I can stay on top of this, guys, and I'm trying. I was in there in my phone too, so I could see the messages, so let me turn my phone down. I'm trying to make sure that I can, there we go. See what y'all are saying while we're doing this. Okay, so I don't miss what you're saying, because that would be bad, right? Okay. All right, so this is what I need from y'all to do, and this is some techniques. You have to stop what you're doing, and you need to listen. How many times have you heard someone say this? Say, in the moment. Or how hard is it actually to do? To listen. We're often so afraid of not being heard, we rush to keep talking. So how hard is it to slow down? Slow down. Big, 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 big skill. And that's something we need to learn. Okay, so you need to stop. One, you need to listen. Well, hi there. My son's listening in today. Hey, guys, I want you all to meet Brandon. My son, he's in the military. Hi, hon. Join in on our communication. Maybe you'll learn something today. All right, so you need to stop and listen. That's the biggest skill. If you don't listen, then no one's going to want to talk to you. We're often so afraid of being heard, we rush and keep talking normally because we want to be heard. Ironically, such behavior makes it all that more likely that we won't be heard. So you need to stop, listen to what people are saying, and then from there you can take it baby steps when you're talking to somebody. This way you're making sure that they're understanding everything you're saying, you're getting your point across, they're not feeling ignored. Here's another thing. Force yourself to hear. If you're just like to the point where I've done this myself, I'm guilty, where, oh my God, she's never going to shut up. Oh my God, please. No, don't do that. Seriously, don't do that. You have to stop talking for a moment yourself. Even though your head is swirling all around and you got all these things that you want to say, so you're still not really hearing what's being said to you. Laugh all you want. But therapists have a technique that will work very well that forces you to rephrase what they are saying, and that's called reflection. And you can do that in your personal relationships. So it's called kind of feedback. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, have them repeat it back to you. Exactly, Lori, not having a conversation through text. That is such a horrible thing to do. What you're doing by texting is no one can really say what your emotional status is at that moment. Think about it. How do you determine, how many times have you thought someone was being short with you when they're texting, or you take it wrong and you're like, wait a second. Okay, no. And then they tell you, no, that's not what I meant. There you go. okay? Avoid having a real conversation through text. If you can't do it in person, chances are you're going to be misunderstood. Let's see here. Here's another thing. Sometimes you're going to hear someone tell you, how many times have you heard this? Let's put it like this. Sometimes I just don't think you're getting what I'm telling you. Have you heard that? Welcome back, Jade. How many times have you heard that? Sometimes I just don't think you're getting what I'm trying to tell you. If you've heard that, then you're not communicating properly. That means you're not using one essential skill that you have, and that's listening. I mean, really listen. Even though it's not something that really interests you, stop and listen. See, and you guys are being so fantastic. You're admitting to a failure that we all have as a person. We forget to listen. So here it is. Stop. When the person's talking to you, just take that moment to listen. And even if it's not anything that really interests you, it's interesting them. So, and you don't get that through a text. Exactly. All right, so here's another part of communication. This is a biggie, guys. Be open and honest with your partner. Tell them what you're feeling. We're not mind readers, okay? I cannot tell you just by looking at you what you're thinking. I mean, if you've been in a relationship a really, really, really long time, chances are you pretty much know 80% what your partner's thinking just because you know them, but you don't know every little thing. So that is where it comes in. You have to be open with your partner, and you have to leave it to where they can come to you and be open with you. So whereas if being open means talking about little things you may have never talked about with another human being before in your life, literally, that you don't talk to nobody else. It means being vulnerable. Remember, that was last week. Oh, how all this plays together. And honest, that's trusting with your partner completely and unabashedly. It means opening yourself up to the possibility of hurt and disappointment, but it also means opening yourself up to the full potential of all a relationship can be. So here we go. It's being, remember last week? It was being vulnerable. You have to make yourself vulnerable to your partner to have a full relationship, because you can't expect them, again, we're not mind readers. And I hate to say it, but you're not going to get very far in that relationship if you can't bleed over it. See, and Jade, at least you admit that. You know it scares you, and you can fix that. Remember our last week's session on how to cure that vulnerability? It's baby steps, and that's opening yourself up, staying present. There you go, and stay present. You were saying it. Open and vulnerable. Don't run out. Exactly, Lori. All right, now, here we go. Pay attention to nonverbal skills. Just because it's not coming out of her mouth does not mean she's not communicating with you. Most of our communication with one another in any type of a relationship is not what we say, it's how we say it, non-language used. It's our inflection, it's our eye contact. And how far away are you when you talk to someone else? Learning communication better that way is going to be the signals to help you understand more of the people around you. I mean, folding of the arms like this of a person, that means they're feeling defensive and closed off from you at that very moment. Okay? Lack of eye contact may mean that they're not really interested in what you're saying, or ashamed of something that they find difficult to talk about themselves. Oh my goodness, how about the louder? I do that when I get excited or I'm agitated. My voice inflects. It kind of goes up a little bit. I'm not yelling, but the voice tone, hey Pamela, it goes up and you can't help it. I know, son, you are. My son, he is the guiltiest of all of folding those arms. Hey baby boy, I'm glad you're listening. But That louder inflection, the more aggressive tone may mean that the person is escalating the decision and is becoming very emotionally involved. It might also suggest that they feel a little like they're not being heard or understood with you. So pay attention to that, because you know you do it, but pay attention to the people around you, the people who matter, even if they don't matter, if it's just a general relationship with somebody. To have a better relationship with those around you, you have to be cute into these little things. It's like, okay, someone who turns away from you when they're talking, that means they're disinterested or they're closed off. See, exactly, when you feel like you're not being heard. So you have cues. Look at, lady, you got cues too. You fold your arms. Well, there you go. See, that's already so many. But now, all the while you're reading your partner's nonverbal signals, be aware of your own. That's the thing. Be aware of your own body language. Make and maintain eye contact. Because I'll tell you something. If you don't look at me, I'm like this. You don't do this with me, I don't trust you. I don't believe anything that you're saying. Seriously. And that's how I convey it. So, and if you're not making eye contact with people, and especially when it's important, chances are they're not believing you either. So remember, make and maintain that eye contact. Keep a neutral body stance and tone in your voice, and sit next to the person when you're talking to them. Well, and you know something, Leanne, in modern technology, you can have that. Look at what we're doing right now. This is just a one way. However, you can do this in a long distance relationship with somebody, because they have all these different programs that allow it. You have Skype, you have ooVoo, you have the Messenger way of doing it on Facebook. So you still can do it, and you can learn a lot from a person, the way they look at you, even on that. There you go. Good, Pamela. Okay, now here's another thing. Stay focused in the here and now, which means, I mean, it's so easy when someone's just talking away. And have you ever had that moment where somebody's talking and you hear this little voice? It's like that commercial on TV, and it's like, na 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 na. Okay, get rid of that voice. Seriously. I used to do this. Guilty, guilty, guilty. I have learned, and I've changed those behaviors, okay, because it was a bad behavior on my part. Sorry, I have here in my eyes. So stay focused in the here and now. Sometimes discussions turn into arguments, and they do. They can morph into something more than a discussion. It can and then next thing you know, everything from the kitchen sink is being thrown at you. To be respectful of one another and the relationship, you should try to keep the discussion or argument focused on the topic at hand, which means don't bring up something from 2 years ago. I'm sorry, you can't change 2 years ago. And you're not going to change that person by discussing something from 2 years ago. You can't fix it. It's done. It's gone. Leave the dead horse buried. Seriously. Stay in the here and now. You can only deal with what is right now and in front of you. So while it's easy to get into those cheap shots and bring up everything that an argument seems to call for, just don't do it. If that argument is obscenely about who's making dinner tonight, keep it on that topic. Don't veer off down the country road off to where the house is that don't exist there, okay? Who's responsible for child rearing? And by the way, who cleans the kitchen sink? Okay, that has nothing to do with who's making dinner, okay? Arguments that veer off tend to escalate and grow larger and larger and larger until they get a life of their own. So one party needs to make an effort at that point to try to de-escalate that argument, even if it means walking away from it. Don't leave the house, don't get in your car and drive away. Just walk away from the argument, literally. But do it as respectfully as possible, saying something like, look, I can see this isn't going to get any better by discussing it tonight. Let's sleep on it and try to talk about it with fresh eyes in the morning. Okay? Exactly, baby. Brandon, I'm sorry. I keep calling him a baby. He's not my baby. He's not a baby anymore, but he's still my baby. Well, and emotional empathy can be difficult to feel when it's long distance over there, but you're going to get that in voice inflection. And that's something, it's all in the way a person verbalizes things. You can tell, like, I mean, if I'm serious, you can hear it in me. I mean, when I'm talking to you right now, do I seem serious? Do I seem focused in on you? Okay, because what we're doing matters. All right. However, if someone's disinterested in what you're saying, Brandon, you can tell. You can tell by the way they're talking. You need to remember that, son. Because with you being deployed, you're going to do a lot of video chatting with whoever you're dating. Whoever is the Mrs. Now. Miss Now. Is that what? That's what he is. Miss Now. Yeah, and it can. And it can. Never be silent. But we'll get to that point. Okay. If you're having trouble talking about your feelings with someone you love, does your partner, I mean, think about this. Are you having that problem right now, communicating with someone you love? Or does your partner run in the other way anytime you bring up feelings? If so, this may be good news for you today. Okay. All right. So what we're going to discuss is 6 ways to improve the emotional communication, which will deepen your relationship. Okay? And 1, you're going to make small talk. If you can't talk to your partner, small talk. Bring it in. Just bring it in. Little things. Exactly. You may think talking about TV shows or even the weather is far from communication emotionally, but these supposedly insignificant details are actually more likely to improve your close emotional ties with your partner than so-called deep discussions of your feelings. Because sometimes you have to do the little things so you can build it back up when your relationship's hurting like that. So if you're not communicating really well with your partner right now, let's try little things like small talk, because it's small talk that's going to get into the big things. Maybe put a little joke in there. Show her that you care. Show him that you care. And don't ask about small, insignificant experiences. Share them. And listen carefully to what they're saying. Remember that, because if you don't, they don't want to hear what you got to say then, because if you don't care what they got to say, they're not going to care what you got to say. Ask questions and don't assume that you know the answers. So let's put it like this. Have you ever talked to somebody and while in the middle of the conversation, they're finishing your conversation for you? And tell me that doesn't annoy the crap out of you. Don't assume what the person you're talking to, what they're going to say. Listen. And then you can communicate better with them about that. Talk about yourself. Let them talk about themselves. But don't take all the air out of it. So make sure it's really back and forth. To talk, it's a give and take. It's a healthy balance between talking and listening. Okay? And once you become aware of the hidden shared moments that you're having with your partner, see if you can find a way to increase your daily small amount of insignificant experiences together. Things that don't matter, because sometimes you put so much of your personal shared stuff as far as what you maybe don't want to discuss, and you're not sure if what you're sharing is what you want to share. So go ahead and don't be afraid to just talk about little or nothing, as long as you're communicating. Always. Exactly. You never know what's going on in their mind. And sometimes the littlest things will get a conversation going. Exactly. Never assume. And no, and that's fine. It's okay because it is. It is, and I'll say it, the mother of all fuck ups. Assuming what somebody is feeling, what they got to say. I mean, it is. And it really, really is. Okay. So, if you're interested in improving the way you communicate with your significant other, with coworkers, with friends, or maybe that person you're trying to get their attention, but you don't know how to talk to them, well, this is where it's all at. So here I have a nice little document I've been working with. I was working this up. So I actually have a split screen going on here, just so you know. That's why I'm wearing my glasses, so I can read what I've written so that I don't forget things. Okay. We've already touched on this a little bit. And it's active listening, but you have to use feedback. Because, here we go. A person to know that you're actively listening to them, they need feedback too. So it's as simple as, let's say, she's telling you about, yeah, I called my mother and da-da-da-da-da. Well, really, and how's your mom doing? Okay, active listening, feedback, conversation. You getting what I'm saying? See this two-way conversation? And see, what it does is it involves making a concerted effort to slow down and listen with an open heart and mind. So this, of course, is easier said than done with some people, but intention is the key. You need to start there. Stop, actively listen, and give feedback. And that's the main example of what you'll need to start off with. And that's the first step. And I'll give you a good example. All right, you can say, it sounds like you're upset with me for forgetting to take care of the dishes, take care of the kids, take the garbage out, make the bed, do a load of laundry. I'm sorry, you've been at work all day. I should have been more considerate and made you something to eat. And that is going to be our next topic for next week. It's called consideration. I love my son. Look at that. Do a little activity together like cooking or putting something together. That way you can talk about it, and tends to drift into one topic like stuff throughout. You know, you can tell he's my son, guys. All right. Okay. And, you know, and then this way, like I said, you're doing this and you're expressing something. Or maybe you're going to say, I understand you're upset with me for using that tone. Yes, he is, Jade. I'm a very proud mama. Okay, so now let's talk about criticism. Guys, edit your criticism. Before it comes out of your mouth, edit it. I'm not kidding. Stop. Before you open your mouth and talk, think about what you're going to say. Because once it's out, you can't take it back. Seriously. Like when communicating with your partner, make a coherent effort to avoid personal criticism. Don't go finding fault in every little thing they do. This includes reframing from put-downs, insults, negative body language, such as eye rolling. As we all know, criticism makes people feel defensive, among other things, and that it causes hurt feelings, it escalates into anger, and then next thing you know, they're walking out the door, guys. You just threw away probably the best thing that ever happened to you. Think about it. Watch what comes out of your mouth. Be very gentle. And this is the next part. Be very gentle when something is bothering you. Bring it up gently without blame. Be aware of the tone that you're using when you're communicating. A mutually respectful tone. Always. Be very gentle with that. Don't be neither passive nor aggressive. It goes a long way in starting a productive dialogue with somebody. Remember that always, and stop. Pay attention to the way you're talking. And you know, Leanne, words hurt, and they do. Do you know it is a known fact? I mean, you can verbally beat someone down and create scars that will never be seen. And it's the worst. Is worse than physical, because physical heals. No one can see it. People can see that, but they heal. The emotional inside, it never heals. Not saying physical's any. I'm not saying that's the way to go either, because I mean they're never going to forget it, and it's going to really mess them up as well. But verbal, you can tear someone down to the point where, I mean, they feel like nothing. Yeah, and it is sad. Okay, now what I need you to do too is seek first to understand being understood. And this is one of our biggest things, and I'm guilty. You want to be understood so bad that sometimes when you're being spoke to by whoever it is, you interrupt because you want to be understood. But wait. I understand that, but you don't understand this. No, stop doing that. You have to first understand it. Exactly, Brandon, if you want to be understood. So this is one of my favorite approaches that you should really use as a mantra in all discussions, whether it's with a spouse or other family members, even friends. When in conflict, our default as a human being is to often focus on our desire to be understood, right? Of course it is. How many times have you heard, you just don't understand what I'm saying? Here, we're back to that. Of course, healthy relationships do involve understanding one another, but rather than emphasizing your own desire to be heard, try changing your focus to putting attention on understanding others. This can really shift the relational dynamics and pave the way for a more and open, fresh communication between y'all. Okay? And I want you to start learning how to ask open-ended questions. Do you understand what those are? These are not questions that would require, how was your day today? Good. You've asked a closed-ended question. Open-ended question is, so tell me about your day today. I'd love to hear about it. Or would you mind telling me about your day? Or did you get this done today and how did it go? These are open-ended questions. If you've ever noticed that those rhetorical questions such as, do you ever stop talking and listen? Or wonder if you've ever taken out the trash without me asking? Don't seem to initiate healthy dialogue. Sure, they may feel good to say at the moment as you release some pent-up frustration or anger, but in the long run, it doesn't contribute to that solution. Exactly. Don't give one-word answers. But you have to remember something. If you're asking questions, you can't ask questions that require just a one-word answer. So it goes both ways there, hon. Here's an example. You may want to say to your spouse, I could use more help with taking out the trash. Do you have any ideas how we can accomplish this? Do you see the way I just did that? We have just gone off with saying, no one's taking out the trash, too. Or, I'm always taking out the trash, that's not fair, too. I could use more help taking out the trash. Do you have any ideas how we can accomplish this? The key. All right, and remember, during this whole process, stay calm. Stay calm. Try to keep the discussion as calm as possible. If things start to escalate, take a break and revisit it when the two of you feel less emotionally charged. Be mindful of your self-talk. Are you saying things to yourself to keep you relatively calm, or are you fueling the flames with yourself emotionally? You know, like you're walking off and da, 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 da. Have you ever gotten into an argument with somebody, or they're saying something and then you hear them as they're walking away and you can hear them mumbling as they're walking away? Yeah, not good. Because what's happening is you're getting aggravated hearing that. So if you're doing this, then the person you're doing it to is going to get aggravated. So you just escalated a situation where you didn't have to. And now here's going to be the biggest thing that I promote constantly, as my son probably has heard this more than once from me, and that is I statements. Try to own your feelings by using I statements when communicating. I feel, I need, I want. Remember the XYZ technique? I feel X when you do Y in situation Z, for example. I feel frustrated when you don't take out the trash on Tuesday, the day you agreed to do so. What you're doing is you're avoiding anything. You're saying, I feel frustrated when you don't take out the trash on Tuesday because maybe that's their day to do the trash, as you agreed to do so. So, yes, son, I know you are. Or, you know, and you're just owning you're owning your feelings with it. You're not giving the, why don't you do this? You. No, stop. That's horrible, horrible. I feel this when this happens. It's your emotions. What about new relationships? Tell me about that. What do you refer to that when you say new relationships, Leanne? Well, we're waiting for her answer on that. Let's keep going. We'll talk about self-soothing. Find ways to soothe yourself when you're upset. For example, take a time out by going for a walk or taking some time by yourself and do some breathing exercises. Oh, there we go. Meditation, guys. Meditation, guys. Take that time and accept the influence from other people. To try to put yourself in your spouse's shoes, you'll be willing to go in their perspective suggestions. So, all right, communication. Remember that thing I say each time, walking in someone else's moccasins? To understand how they're feeling when you're listening, it's like walking in their shoes. You have to listen to understand how they're feeling. And if you don't listen, forget it. You are putting a nail in your coffin with that relationship. Show that you appreciate what they're saying. Make 5 times the positive statements than negative ones when you're having a discussion. If you're in a new relationship and you don't feel like they're putting an effort in, then start using some I statements, Leanne. Things like, I feel like this is not a balanced relationship. I feel like we can do better if. I feel like if we try this or that maybe this will work out. Or I don't feel like this is going to work out if we don't have some changes made. Be honest. Honest. And use your I's. Don't do your you's. Don't say you're not doing this. Say, I feel. Okay? Because that, if you don't, you're asking to argue with them. And here's a strategy for ending some arguments. Okay? Validate and apologize. Oh, imagine that concept. Apologize. Own your shit, guys. Own your shit. And that's, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Own it. Validate. Let your partner know that you understand their point of view by validating them. It may sound obvious, but don't forget to take responsibility for what you've done and apologize if necessary. Exactly. People need to be accountable for their own stuff. Okay? And back to ending that argument, changing the topic of conversation in gentle, sensitive manner. Because remember, this may be getting kind of heated, and they got something they got to say. So if you're in an argument that isn't going anywhere, shift the focus of the conversation. It's important to do so in a gentle, conscientious manner so that the other person doesn't feel disregarded. With some arguments, this approach will take well, some it won't. But with highly charged topics, it may be necessary to schedule a follow-up time to revisit what's important to both members. Because if it's not going anywhere, it's just gonna continue on this path, and it may get worse. So, yeah, son, you had a chip on your shoulder before you left, and then you called me, which I greatly appreciated. I thought that was amazing. Which I got to say this, guys, because give it to my son. Before he left to go into boot camp, he had this chip on his shoulder, horrible chip, enough to where I was ready to knock it off for him because oof. Oof. And I kept telling him, you got a chip on your shoulder, and I don't appreciate it. I don't like the way you're acting. I don't like the way you're talking to any of us. He got put in, when he went into the Army, of course, boot camp, they tore him down. I got this phone call, and my baby was in tears telling me how sorry he was. Thank you for that, Brandon. All right, so back to this. Use of humor. Here's another way to, de-escalate that argument, which is very, very, very important. Ending that argument. Use some humor. It goes a long way. If you find yourself stuck in a cycle of negativity, try to lighten things up with some humor, even a silly behavior, something. This can sometimes snap a couple out of an anger trance. So I want you to think about that, because arguing is not going to get you. It's going to keep going. And then yield to the other. Let go of your attachment to being right. Do we always have to be right? Seriously? Have you ever talked to somebody and they always have to get the last say in? Oh my God, my goodness. That last say. I'm right, so I got this to say, and you've made your point. They know they were wrong, but yeah, they have to get the last say in. No, yield to it. You can agree to disagree and move on from there. Leave it alone. Because it's not always going to be right. And you're not always going to be right. They're not always going to be right. Make physical contact. And not in a bad way, guys. Because you're usually pretty disconnected when you're arguing, which fuels a cycle of negativity. Reach out to your significant other in a respectful physical gesture, like holding their hand or putting your arm around their shoulder. Anything that would show, I care. I really care about you. And if it's that fueled, go up and grab them, throw your arms around them and hold them. They may try to pull away, and give them a kiss on the cheek and just say it's okay. It's okay, because you're not communicating anymore. And then you can even whisper, we can talk about this later. Just de-escalate it. Find some way, make that physical contact. Or if that's not going to work, take a break. If you can't do that, if you're not that type of person, then just go ahead and take a break and reapproach it later. Acknowledge common ground between the two of you. When arguing, people have a tendency to focus on their point of view and becoming more polarized as the things escalate. In most arguments, there's a common ground shared by both of you. So find that middle territory and talk about it. Just talk about it. Okay? Set a timer. If you're going to get into a conversation and you know it could escalate, get a timer. Set it right there. And work on it. Set that timer. Give her 2 minutes. Set it again. Give yourself 2 minutes. Seriously. Because some people, they don't know how to communicate. And if you need to, set a timer. Because it's kind of like that old thing, passing the ball type thing. But I'm going to say 5 minutes, because usually people can't get what they want to say out in 2 minutes. So, but it's the same thing as passing the ball. Set a timer. Give each other 5 minutes to talk. And in that time, follow everything else I told you earlier. Listen to your partner, please. Because what they got to say is pretty damn important, because they're saying it. It may not be important to you, and if it's not important to you, then you don't have a business being with them. Then they deserve to be with somebody who really cares. You need to think about that. Okay? And TJ, stop. TJ, Sorry, I have a rescue that's in heat, and my male dog who's fixed. Yeah, he's trying to communicate verbally. I mean, not verbally. We won't go over there. Anyways, so here's a conclusion. I mean, we still got time, and we're going to open it up to other things, but the communication tips here is, in general, when communicating with your significant other, try to both listen and speak in a non-defensive manner. Keep in mind that anger is considered a secondary emotion. It's usually fueled by more primary emotions related to grief, a sense of loss or sadness, and or fear. Granted, anger, stop. I had to stop them. Yeah, stop. Sorry. TJ is being really a pervert. Granted, anger can be justified, but when you and your spouse is feeling this way, it can be helpful to look at the broader emotional landscape by addressing the underlying fear, that sense of loss, anger, and it greatly diminishes. As with any desire to change a behavior, practice is the key. Try out these strategies, see what works for you. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, though, okay? Try using new required efforts, but more you practice, the more automatic and second nature these approaches will become for you. But it's like practice makes perfect. Yeah. What has my son got to say? Having activity that can be used to get out bad and make fun. It'll make a light and previous conversation. Well, yep, true. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, she's in heat. He's fixed. I mean, if he did mount her and it actually took, it'd be like spit baby, guys. They're just not going to live. But anyways, that was kind of crude, huh? Here we go now. All right, so I've gone over everything that I really need to go over, which was really, really, really important stuff. So come on, come at me. You got questions? We have 13 minutes to go. So I'm all eyes, all ears. Let's communicate. Whatever you're ready, please do. And I don't know if you are or not, because I'm not seeing anything. It should be coming up on my phone, the way I have this set up. See, the one thing I don't like about when I do it live on my computer is, for some reason, the answers don't go anywhere. Whereas here on my phone, so I have to have two things up at all times. It's crazy, huh? All right, so what do we got here? Let's talk about what happens when one rejects the time to talk about it. Okay, so let's say you go to your partner and say, we really need to talk about this, or I want to talk about this with you, and they reject it, or you're bringing up a good conversation with them. I would say, then here's an I statement time for you, Jade. It would be, I really feel like you don't care what's going on with me, or I really feel like we need to talk about this because I'm feeling messed up. Find a way to incorporate your I statements so that you can be keep this productively going. And I need to plug my phone in, so hang on one second, since I have to do it on phone. Because it is not a healthy situation when I'm trying to do it from both. Well, because I had to share it too, and it's a pain in the butt when I got to share it. And I don't want to do it on my phone because somebody said last time that it seems so condensed. So, all right, now Pamela, you have loads to ask but not ready. You really need to come with those questions when you can, because what happens is that I can't answer them if I'm not aware of them. So you really need to be able to come at me with these questions, and that's something you'll do, I'm sure, in time. But remember, really we'll need them. And you can think about something else. Let me throw out here while I'm thinking about it, because we've still got 10 minutes. Remember, this is life coach session. A life coach session is different from therapy if you're in with seeing a psychologist. And the reason why, as a psychologist, what they do is what we're doing right now, they don't take this approach. They sit down and they ask you what's going on with you, and that's really all they do. And then they let you communicate, and then they give you little tasks to do. They don't tell you what to do. There's no direction. It's basic. So with this, what this does, the difference is it helps you, because I'm giving you a kick in the ass is what I'm doing. And that's the nicest way to put it. And you're held accountable for your own actions. Okay, what if you address the problem that you think it's okay, but he says I'm nagging all the time? Nagging all the time, is that what you're saying, Jamie? Because it didn't come through properly. If someone is saying you're nagging, then they're not communicating really well with you. So then you're going to have to say, and a good I statement, I'm not nagging, and it hurts me when you say I'm nagging, because this is how I feel and I own my feelings. Now, if your partner doesn't care about your feelings, then you may need to either get some type of a counseling with him, if that's your problem, or you may need to do some rethinking. I mean, and I hate to say that, but true story. Okay? All right. Anyone else? We still have 8 minutes. Okay, while I'm waiting for some questions, let me go back to my regular statements. And that is that, again, remember, this is life coach session. It's not a therapy session. If you're needing any help one-on-one, that means away from the eye of everybody else, and you just really need some one-on-one sessions, I do make those available. They are $60 an hour. It's not a free service. I do PayPal. And we can set up times for that, and I will discuss and go over, and we will find out what's working for you, what's not working for you, where have you been, so we can come up with some solutions in any areas that you're needing. But to do that, and if this is what you're considering, I need you to make a list of how you're feeling, what's going on, what is your what's going on in your environment, what are your main concerns. What do you think your failure is? What do you think is going on elsewhere? But you have to be honest, because, again, I'm not a therapist in this. I am just a life coach in this. Okay? So as a life coach, the difference between that and if I was doing therapy with you is therapy can take 1 to 2 years to get the result I'm going to get to in a couple sessions. So keep that in mind. Okay, so any other questions? Anything that we have? I know it takes a while for it to load up. So, all right, so you've been married 22 years and you feel alone. Okay, have you planned a vacation? That would probably be a good thing. And that is because if you're in a relationship, you're not alone. And if you're lonely and you are in a relationship, so then you're missing some interaction. So this I would highly recommend for you, Jamie, to either do one of two things. And if your spouse cares enough, your spouse will go ahead and go along with this, and that is get some type of counseling. And this would be a marriage counseling. Or you can start implementing little things with your spouse. Get out some board games. Get out what interests your spouse. Have you shown interest in what your spouse does? So you have to take ownership as well. If you want your spouse to pay attention to you, you have to be giving your spouse an ample amount of attention. So, like for instance, I love rock hounding. Well, I could be with somebody who doesn't like rock hounding. Well, guess what? Then I'm going by myself. But if my spouse gives a crap, my spouse would go with me. So, but yet sometimes it's just not their thing. Like, I don't like football. All right, lesbians out there who are listening, I don't like football. I'm not going to watch it. I have watched it. Shame. My ex, she loves football. So I would sit there, unwilling, unparticipant, but I would do it. I was not there in total spirit, but I was still, as far as she was concerned, I was. My mind was elsewhere, but at least I was there. And she did not know that I was not paying attention. So, Jamie, as far as for you, I highly recommend that you consider involving yourself in what your spouse does, and then asking your spouse to do something with you. It takes two, hon. This is communication. So do you feel that counseling would meet your needs? Do you feel your spouse would want to, or are you unsure? If you're unsure, then you need to start opening the line of communication to find out what's going on with your spouse. If you are in a volatile relationship where your spouse doesn't care about your feelings, then maybe it's time to give your spouse a little fear that, you know, you're not always going to be there. Don't walk away, though. I mean, 22 years, that's a long time to commit into a relationship. Never throw that away, ever. If you don't have to, as long as you are not in a relationship where you're being abused or battered. If you were, I would recommend please leave. So you've suggested and can't get him to do anything. Have you done anything to make him want to do anything with you? Communication. I mean, sit down. Like I said, get a board game. Get down. Get in his face. Get in his face. Don't let him walk away. Sit down and say, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Get in his face. And sit there and say, I'm lonely. Tell him how you feel. I'm lonely. I'm married to you, but I'm lonely. Tell him. Be honest. You know, tell him how you're feeling. If you're to the point where you're afraid you want to walk away from that relationship, tell him. Be honest, because sometimes they have to be afraid that they're going to lose what they have to straighten their asses out. But here we go. Men are a whole different breed, and I want you to remember that. They just are, and it's really hard to say what a man feels, because again, we're not men, we're women here. What I would recommend you do is I would get yourself into see a marriage counselor, and this is going to be my suggestion for you at this point, and then make the appointment for yourself, get healthy there yourself with this person, with this counselor, and then tell him, I'm in counseling, either you come with me or put your foot down. I mean, usually by then they'll go. I mean, and I don't want to give you this advice and say that this is truly going to openly work for you. You're in a hard place. Being alone when you're in a long-term relationship like that, that's a hard place to be. I want you to really think about what you need to do. You have so many options, and you really do. And I would start exploring those options. Go on vacation together. There you go. Wow, imagine that. Does he like to camp? Go camping. Okay? All right, guys, we are at the end of today's session. It has been a joy as always. If you want a one-on-one session, I'm here. We can get a little bit more personal, really dig into what's going on with you. Please don't be afraid to contact me. You can send me a message here at Healing Hands, or you can contact me on my PM. If we're not friends, my only concern is I may not see it because it goes to that other file. But I look forward to hearing from anyone. I look forward to seeing you next week. And till then, bye.